streaming, guys. I'll jump onto this, but I don't think we're on. We are on, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome this evening. We are talking about civil war in the United Kingdom, apocalyptic scenes, and apocalyptic hellscape that we could be heading towards. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about this in the live stream. Okay, this video is meant to be a hypothetical scenario, guys, and if you guys think it could be true, then that is just coincidental, ladies and gentlemen. That's just coincidental. So before we start, ladies and gentlemen, we're triple streaming today. We are on YouTube, we are on X, we are also on TikTok. So I'll give the first part of this if I'll do what I always do, guys. I will go and then we'll cut over to YouTube and we'll cut over to X so I can talk a little bit more freely. But let's just start, ladies and gentlemen. There's no better place to start than the beginning. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about the chilling question: could the United Kingdom, a nation steeped in history, resilience, resistance, could the United Kingdom be teetering on the brink of civil war? I don't know, guys. I don't know. Maybe we could, maybe we couldn't. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this video is just for entertainment purposes, okay? This is a totally hypothetical scenario. But you know what, guys? I think we should come back to this in a year and see where the direction of travel is. So, because we're exploring a dark path, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a dark path, fueled by I guess mass migration, social fractures, a government that's really lost. I mean, look, guys, I believe the government has lost trust of its people. I don't see who would still trust the government in the United Kingdom now. And a lot of this is of their own doing. And I'm not pointing the finger. I am pointing the finger at the Labour Party, but I'm also pointing the finger at the Tory Party as well, because they were, they were, I would say they were slightly better, but only slightly better, guys. Okay, so I want this to be a warning, not a prediction, guys. I want this to be a warning because I don't want this to come. But let's this is just a story, guys. Okay, this is just a story. All right. So I've got lots of questions for you guys to ponder on as well. So I want this to be what is it, Quasadisa or something, Quasadilla or something? I don't know. Where I ask questions and you ask questions, right? So picture this then, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Let me paint you the scene, all right? And as I'm saying this right now, this has got no relevance to what's actually happening in the United Kingdom, okay? So picture the scene, 2025, the streets of London, Manchester, Birmingham are no longer safe. They're no longer these hubs of commerce and culture. They're battlegrounds. Protests that began as cries for change have morphed into something uglier, something darker. Clashes between communities fueled by years of pent-up frustration. That sound familiar, guys? Am I off the spot here? A spark. I've said this before, guys. There will be a spark, and this will be, I guess, a toxic mix of migration, economic stagnation. In fact, guys, look, when I talk about economic stagnation, like, we're looking at inflation now going back up to 4%. Turns out all those tax raises and all that taxing people didn't really do much good. Anyway, guys, so, that's what we're talking about now, okay? Toxic mix, mass migration, economic stagnation, the government that really does seem deaf to the people's will. Recent reports, there have been recent reports warn of rising unrest. It's not just me now, right, warning of this rising unrest. There are a lot of professors, a lot of ex-military chiefs or colonels or whatever they're called, and lots of people now are talking about this in the mainstream, guys. It's not just me. With social cohesion as well, absolutely fraying between communities. Let's ask, what's driving this descent into chaos, guys? Like, what do we think's driving this descent into chaos? Just a quick question, guys. Zed, Zed is asking, what will civil war achieve? Civil war will bring the United Kingdom under the control of the Americans. That's what it will bring. My opinion, anyway, guys. That's my opinion. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So let's talk about mass migration then first. And I don't think, I mean, it was one of, when you talk about mass migration, like a year ago, talking about mass migration, people would, you would be sideswiped talking about mass migration as like some sort of fringe racist. But now you have mainstream political parties talking about the need for mass deportation. That's the reality, guys. All right. So mass migration, whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it, it has reshaped the United Kingdom's demographic landscape. There's no denying it, guys. All right. I mean, whatever statistic you go from, whether you want to go from 1997, whether you want to go from, I guess 1996, whether you want to go from 2012, net migration has soared, all right, to a stage where we are now in the United Kingdom, where we have almost 1 million people in the United Kingdom who have no right to be here, all right? That is the reality, all right? We have almost 1 million people who have no rights to be in the United Kingdom. Hang on a minute. Nadine is saying, where would the country be? Nadine is saying, where would the country be if all the immigrants never helped rebuild after the war? I tell you where we'd be. We'd have a better GDP. We wouldn't have as many people on benefits. We wouldn't have slums. We'd have more technology. We'd have a stronger legal system. We'd have a stronger respected police force. And we wouldn't have the Notting Hill Carnival. So I hope I answered your question, Nadine. That's where we'd be, I think. Anyway. Where was I going then, guys? Where was I going? So this is what I'm talking about here, guys, is this, this rise in, I guess, a multicultural society. Some people say it's a strain on resources. Some people say it's a strain on British identity. I guess the riots last year, that quickly spread all over the United Kingdom, they showed just how quickly, these tensions can ignite. Can you remember there was nothing and then overnight it was just bonkers? Now, Nigel Farage's Reform Party, they seem to have an anti-immigration stance. But again, guys, look, I'm not convinced. I'm really not convinced, guys, okay? I'm not convinced on Reform's anti-immigration stance. However, they captured 14.3% of the vote in the last election, which is huge, guys, which is absolutely huge, which is just it's just a sign of the growing discontent in the United Kingdom. So my question for you, ladies and gentlemen, all right, this is an open question, all right? Is migration itself an issue, or is it the failure to integrate that is lighting the fuse? What is it? What do we think it is, guys? Do we think it's migration itself, or do we think it's people failing to integrate that's causing the problems in this country? And you guys know what I think. Right, hang on. What's going on here in the chat? Nadine is saying this country, I'm assuming Nadine means the United Kingdom, was built off the back of immigration. Big facts. I mean, I would say that this country was built off the back of piracy. The fact that Britain ruled the seas and Britain owned the waterways and owned the transport all over the world. And the East India Company owned most of the world. I don't think we had anything to do with migration at that point. There was like, where did we look? There was no migrants in the United Kingdom at that point. Absolutely zero. So, I mean, if what Nadine means is the British Empire was built in the 50s by black people coming over from the Caribbean, then if that's what you mean, Nadine, if the British Empire was built in the 50s by Caribbeans, is that what you mean, Nadine? Nadine, is that what you mean? Right, hang on, guys. I'm going to go for some... Okay, so Russo and his Pizzagate here. So Pizzagate Russo, hang on. Pizzagate Russo is saying, right, guys, look, on the TikTok chat, are you guys actually saying that the British Empire and all its might was built in the 1950s by Caribbeans? Is that what you guys are saying? Is that what you guys are saying? That's exactly what she means. Right, guys, I'm going to have to take you off, Russo. Russo, I'm trying to have an intellectual conversation here, Russo. Go and listen, Russo, with respect, go and watch the BBC and wait for the next time you have to have a jab. Where's Nadine as well? Nadine, you're going as well. You do seem lovely, but you're going as well. Listen, guys, if people are just going to make statistics up, I get it, you know. I get it. Some cultures don't have any history. They've never done anything. They've never been anywhere, and they have to make things up. All right. And that's absolutely fine. You want to make stuff up, go to another channel, because I will call you out, guys. All right. The British Empire was not built in the 1950s because we invited some Caribbeans over here. I mean, I could argue. I mean, let's just see what happens in Notting Hill, guys. Let's just see how diverse. Stop, Sean. Stop. Right. Let's continue, guys. Sorry about that. I do apologize. Right. Is anybody else going to get swizzled off my chat? Is anyone else getting swizzled off my chat? Right. Suck your mum. So Russo's final comment. I'm just going to pin this. I've took him off the I've took him off the chat here. But Russo's final comment, I mean, what an intellectual conversation. What an intellectual conversationist, right? So this guy, I don't know who he is, Russo Pizza, all right? I'm telling Russo Pizza that the British Empire was the empire long before black people came to the United Kingdom in the 1950s after the Second World War. And his response, his vast intellectual skills were suck your mum. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means, guys. But listen, if you're an intellectual heavyweight and that's your way to outsmart me, saying suck your mum, I mean, honestly, I don't even know why I waste my breath. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will continue. So we'll continue. So the question was that I gave to you guys was, and this is a question for you guys, right? Is it migration itself that's causing the problem, or is it the failure to integrate? Now, I personally think it's the failure to integrate, and I think the failure to integrate is big. Right, King PJ, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even going to argue with people anymore. You're gone. He's gone as well. So I think personally, it's the failure to integrate into that society. I don't think this has got anything to do with the color of anybody's skin. And I've always said that, guys, like literally look back through my live streams. I've always said, I don't care about the color of your skin. It's your culture, right? It's your culture. And like, I can remember when in the 90s, like, you know, everybody at school, like Paul Ince was their favorite football player, or Ian Wright, you know, and great boxing matches between, you know, I forgot their names now, Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn. I mean, look, guys, I'll concede, like Chris Eubank is like, I will concede, he's more of an Englishman than me. So, you know, it's got nothing to do with the color of the skin. It's about assimilating into that culture. That's where I think it is anyway, guys. There may be some other people who are thinking I'm wrong and you know, we just need to get everybody out. I actually don't think that the numbers are a problem. If those numbers are contributing, if those numbers are building, if those numbers are helping society grow, I actually think it's a good thing. It's that failure to, you know, it's that failure to integrate into that society. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, anyway, so I want to talk briefly about the government now, guys, an unpopular government and eroding trust in the United Kingdom. And I really wish I'd have got a t-shirt on. Let me open this door, guys. Give me a second. Oh. So let's talk about that then, guys, okay? The government. There's no denying it, ladies and gentlemen. I think from every measurable metric, public trust is crumbling, guys. It really is crumbling. People, when they're writing these reports, they're using words like powder keg, they're polarization, economic pessimism, distrust in institutions, you know, and the government's response to unrest, like a heavy-handed crackdowns. I mean, all you need to do is look at Lucy Conley, and that is the government's response. And it's just not working, guys. It's not working. And this has only deepened the divide. Now, the divide you guys can look at would be in the context that look at Lucy Conley and Ricky Jones, guys. All right, you only need to look at them to understand the difference in, you know, the difference in how the legal system treats you. And for those of you who are going to jump up and say, "Oh, but Sean, Lucy Conley pleaded guilty." Yes, she pleaded guilty because she was advised to plead guilty. And I think there's question marks, and I think something's going to come out in the future whereby the people who told her to plead guilty, I think they're going to get struck off, guys, because ultimately it's terrible. Now, I don't know if you guys know about the Emergency Measures Act 2000 and the 2004 Emergency Measures Act. I don't know if you guys know about that. There's something called the Emergency Measures Act 2004, or it might be like I think it's called the Emergency Contingency Plan 2004. Basically, if this thing is, you know, if the Emergency Measures Act 2004 is put, if they click the green light on that, literally, it's total martial law. It's total government law. You can't do anything. The government can arrest you for whatever they want. It's crackers, guys. Okay. I want to talk about this guy now. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's this guy called David Betts. Now, he's a professor at what's the London Imperial War Museum or something. He's a professor, and he does military studies. And like, if you listen to him, some of the things he's saying now, obviously I've been saying the same, but you know, it's not just a handful of people now talking about mass civil unrest, civil war in the United Kingdom, and maybe I don't know, guys. I think we're going to see apocalyptic scenes, guys. I really do. You know, policies on immigration, justice. It's just eroding the very fabric of trust in this country, and you have nothing. You have nothing without trust. Google it is saying Sean. Yes, Google it. Google is saying Sean. Yeah, yes, Google it. Right, Google is saying, look at the Blackpool barrier that's being put in place. Guys, listen, let me get to the end of this little monologue, and then we'll have a little back and forth. But listen, guys, if you guys are just joining, I am talking about warning to the United Kingdom, UK civil war, apocalyptic scenes, you know, coming soon. I think we have reached that critical mass now, guys. I don't think there's any way back. So I've got another question for you guys, okay? When people, and I'm talking about everyday people now, so when people feel their leaderships or their political system no longer represent them, how long do you think it is before people take matters into their own hands? Now, this comes onto this covers a few tropes that like I've tried to, I bridge before. The first one is, in the United Kingdom, we have no legal way to oppose our government. If the government passed something through in law, then that is law. No matter how crazy it is, if the government pass it through in law, then it has to be adhered to by by everybody, because that's the law. That's what we have. So how long before people break? How long before people stop and just say, you know what? I'm not paying my bills. I'm not paying my taxes. We've got 500 people in this community. You're not coming in. We're not paying us bills. Do as you will. Like how long? Like how long before that happens? I really do think that's coming, guys. I don't know when. It's not going to be this year. It probably won't be next year, but I do believe it's coming. I thought this year. I believe that this year was the last chance we could change things with protests, but I just don't see the capacity, guys. I do not see the capacity of that now. Right, let me get some questions. EV Rick 16 is saying, hang on. EV Rick is saying, what will happen if civil war kicks off in the UK, and will the true British people be at risk? Rick, everybody will be at risk in a civil war. That's the thing. And I don't think it's going to be a civil war like anything anyone's ever seen before, because I think that there's going to be so many dividing lines, and those dividing lines are going to be, religion, race, financial, geographical, whether you live in the countryside, whether you live in the city. There are going to be so many dividing lines in the country. It's not just going to be us versus them. It's going to be us and them versus them, them and them. But those guys sometimes work with those guys against those guys, and the government are coming down heavy on different people at different times. It's going to be crazy, guys. I think there's going to have to be a new word for it, but I do believe this is leading towards the United States taking over the UK. So I spoke about this guy earlier. David Betts. If you guys want to go and Google him and look at his videos on YouTube, I'm sure people have put him on TikTok as well. Now, so he's a military expert, and he paints a grim picture. British cities could become feral within 5 years. Guys, look, I went to Manchester a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't believe how feral it was, and I do think that's true, guys. All right, I do believe we're heading towards feral, apocalyptic cities in the United Kingdom. And this is what I said, people want those divisional lines on race, religion. But guys, look, if you live out in the countryside or a rural area like we do, we don't want those city folk coming around here. Like you guys in the city, like, no, stay in the city, do your city stuff over there. Don't come over here and we won't go over there. That's a divisional line, guys. That's a divisional line. So this guy, David Betts, he's painting a real grim picture, guys, about British cities becoming feral within 5 years, descending into lawlessness, economic decline in post-industrial Britain. What was it? Today we had Liberty, like I think it was Friday actually, so yesterday, Liberty Steel went bust. I think that's 2,000 jobs in Sheffield, 2,000 jobs gone. There's another company that I can't talk about now. My friend works for them, and he says, look, Sean, like, I don't think this, and it's going to be a big headliner. And he's saying, I don't think they're going to last another month. So, these big industries, they're gone, they're finished, they're not coming back. When you close those furnaces, you can't just turn them on again, guys. It doesn't work like that. So, we really do have like this post-industrial country, especially in the north, guys, especially in the Midlands, and this breeds resentment between those, that north-south divide, I guess, So, in addition to this as well, and again, I'm talking about like the economic crises here. So because these big companies go bust, that puts additional strain onto the restaurants, the pubs, Those places around, because mum and dad who worked at Company X has gone bust. Mum and dad don't have that excess, what's the word I'm looking for? Excess income, that's the word, disposable income to go to the pub, to go and socialise. So they can't go to the pub. So the pub sales are down. So the pub have to close. So then the pubs close. They lay off staff. They're not buying from the brewery. They're not buying from the bakery. They go bust. Guys, look, we are on a collision course now for it's here, guys. There's no going back now. So another question, ladies and gentlemen, another question for you guys. All right. Okay. Are we already there? That's what I'm saying. I guess I've given you the answer already. Right. Are we already there? Do we already have feral cities? Are we already seeing these cracks in our society, these divisional lines? Are they already there, guys? Are they already there? And let's not forget, it's not just natives fighting with non-natives in these riots and these battles. I think it was 2022 where there was the Pakistanis having riots in Leicester with the Indians. Was that 2022? Might have been 2023. But so now we're having this scenario where we're getting foreign countries, people from foreign countries coming to the United Kingdom, and that's another divisional line. That different divisional lines, guys. All right. So what will be the apocalyptic tipping point? What's that going to be, guys? What do we think the apocalyptic tipping point is going to be? Hang on, guys. I'm going to get these questions because I've just looked and there's over 40 questions and comments. Grumbling Grunts is saying, when there is no food on the shelves anymore. Do you know what? That's a good, let me pin that. That's a good comment, actually. There was a book I read. I think it was called like 7 Meals to Apocalypse or 7 Meals to the Apocalypse or something. Now, in this book, it went into a lot of social and economic reasoning. What it basically said in this book was, if anybody's ready, it might be 6 Meals to Apocalypse. You only keep, like, the normal person keeps 6 to 7 meals in their fridge, in their freezer, in their cupboards. So you can imagine if the supermarket stopped selling food. In 7 meals, that's it. You're out of food. And you want to see how people go crazy with 7, when there's no food. What I will say on that, I can remember in 2010, in 2010, in the UK, there was a massive snowstorm right at Christmas. And Tesco's made like an announcement saying the roads are that bad. We're not going to be able to restock our stores. Anyway, so I went down to the store. I was in walking distance of the Tesco's. Honestly, guys, it was apocalyptic. People were panicking, bulk buying. There were 2 old ladies fighting over a loaf of bread. And I'm thinking, wow. We're not saying that Tesco's has run out of food. We're not saying that we can't get any food in. We're not saying that the farms have broken or the farms can't produce anything because they're producing flowers. We're just saying Tesco's are going to have to wait until the snow melts. That is literally what it is. So absolutely spot on. I think that is a fantastic cursor. When the food runs out, I guess that would be a tipping point. So let me lean into this a little bit more, guys. All right. Let me lean into the apocalyptic. All right. Let's lean into the apocalyptic because, we all want a little bit of clickbait, don't we, guys? We all want a little bit of clickbait. So I did use the word apocalypse. All right. Now, the word apocalypse, it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. All right. So I want to give this like an apocalyptic slant. All right. So imagine now, guys, the summer of 2026. All right. The summer of 26, all right? It's hotter than it was this year, I guess. global warming, riots erupting, the anniversary of the Southport incident, more social discontent, social media running, going crazy, lies, misinformation, near peer adversaries, everything's gone crackers, guys. All right. Just imagine that like next year. All right. Far-right groups clashing with anti-racism groups, the police overwhelmed. There was that guy, what's his name? He was an Richard Kemp. He was like a colonel. I think he's an ex-colonel. People still call him Colonel Richard Kemp, but he's not colonel anymore. He was predicting civil war if these trends continue. And as long as we keep these trends up, what I mean by that is, as long as we keep mass migration coming into the United Kingdom, as long as the government don't listen to us, as long as we have Rachel Reeves saying, we have a 22 billion black hole. I'm going to tax you now until it's a 50 billion black hole. We have a 50 billion black hole. I'm going to tax you some more. Now it's a 100 billion black hole. I'm going to have to tax you some more. Like, when does it end, guys? When does it end? When does the taxing end? It's unbelievable. Anyway, sorry. So he points out, to the public anger over crimes, allegedly, ladies and gentlemen, linked to migrants. And crime is becoming an epidemic now, guys. Crime is an epidemic. It's unbelievable. So here's another question for you guys, okay? Could a single event, I think we all know the answer to this, but like, I'm gonna ask this question in two parts. Could another single event, another single high-profile incident, push the UK past the point of no return? And if so, what do you think that would be? What do you think that's likely to be that pushes people beyond the point of no return? Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, guys, something will break. It will break, guys, okay? It will absolutely break. Okay, so Lisa Jane actually worked through that period. So if you guys remember, I was just talking, so Lisa Jane over on YouTube is just saying, I actually remember working for Tesco on the checkouts when they closed for 2 weeks at Christmas. The food people would buy was outrageous and the queues were horrendous. So this is, thank you, Lisa. So Lisa there's confirming what I just said. It was 2000, it might have been 2009. I think it was 2010. There was was it 2010? I don't even think it was that. I don't know, guys. Maybe 2010. I can't remember. 2010, something around that time. Massive snowfall. Tesco said they couldn't get out. They couldn't they couldn't get the food on the tables, and people went bonkers, ladies and gentlemen. People went absolutely bonkers. All right. Now you can imagine what would happen if this event, if Tesco's didn't say, hey guys, we can't get to you for a few days. If they're saying, oh no, it's not that we can't get to you for a few days. We don't have any food. We don't have any bread. This year's harvest has been terrible because we've had no rain. I don't know. This year's harvest has been terrible because everybody's planted flowers in the field and nobody's planting food anymore. Hang on, guys. So Pauline, hang on. UK Veterans, just as a quick update, guys. As I understand it, UK Veterans works on I do work on a farm, UK Veterans. So UK Veterans is saying food shortages are coming. Over 6,000 farming businesses have closed. Yeah, it is coming, guys. Food shortages are coming. Make sure you've got some food. And look, guys, everybody starts, like when you start getting food and like squirreling food away, you kind of understand real quick that the only way to protect yourself is to be able to grow your own food, guys. Ultimately, that is, that's the reality. Paulie is saying, you're an ex-soldier. Yes, I am. What do you think their agenda is yourself, or can't you say it live? Oh no, Paula, what do you say? So Paula, can you elaborate a little bit more? What do you mean their agenda? The military work for the government, so I don't think the military have an agenda. They just do as they're told. What do you mean, Paulie? If you could elaborate a little bit more on that question, I'll you can elaborate a little bit more on that question, I'll answer it. So hang on. Sorry, guys. John Harvey. So I just said about growing your own food, and John Harvey said that's hard when you live on a narrowboat. John Harvey, I don't know. Can you not have like a fishing tank in the water and you like pull it behind you? Can you not get fish? I don't know. I'm just like, use your imagination, dude. I'm sure you could grow like tomatoes or something out of a bucket. I mean, we grew our first. Well, you guys been following me for a while. We tried growing tomatoes, not this last year. Absolute disaster. The tomatoes were an absolute disaster. Tony Baloney on TikTok is saying, why are we being pushed to revolt? So Tony Baloney, I can give you a really long answer, or I can give you like an hour's answer. Or what I'll say is, we are being pushed to revolt so we become part of the United States. Nobody says that I don't listen, guys. Nobody says that I copy other people. I give you guys my own analysis, my own speculation, and my own opinion. We are slowly becoming part of the United States. If you understand subversion, if you understand crisis, if you understand normalization, if you understand what's coming, I believe all this is a direction for the United Kingdom to become part of the United States. I do, guys. I do. Oh, hang on. So, Chair is saying over on YouTube, is saying a shout out to my big girl getting a first in her BA degree today. Super proud of her. So let's just have a moment to the people who are still to the people who are grinding, and making it happen for themselves. Right, I'm still waiting for. Oh, right, okay. So Paulie, hang on, because I asked Paulie. Right, okay, here we are. Right, so I asked Paulie to elaborate what he meant on his last comment. So he just wrote here, I mean, with this whole immigration thing, what are they trying to achieve? Right, okay, yeah, same answer as I gave before, Paulie. I think all this is to create a crisis in the United Kingdom. The Russians are going to win the war in Europe. They're going to make it all the way up to the English Channel. Britain is going to be taken over by America, and then you are going to have George Orwell's 1984 with Oceania and Eurasia. That's where I think we're going, guys. And at some point thereafter, you're going to start to see a migration to Antarctica. I know that's wild, ladies and gentlemen. I know that's wild. I know it is. But look, as we move forward through time, you'll start to see these. Now I've said that, you'll start to see these little footprints. You'll start to see the little breadcrumbs. You'll start to make things. Will start to make things. Will start to make more sense. John over on YouTube, he's saying, for 36 years, I've been growing my own food. Now I've been told I cannot do this anymore. In my allotment, it's been taken back for housing. Yeah. We actually found out the same, John. The allotment near where we live, They were supposed to be, they wanted to do that to the local allotments where we live. The local people came together where they said, you know what, this was before I moved. This was like in the 80s, I think. You know, people came together like, not a chance. We love those allotments. We love growing our little potatoes and stuff. You know, and people came together and they refused it. So people power does work. Woken Flower is saying, I've grown as much as I can this year. I'm run over with tomatoes and cucumbers if anyone wants some. Woken Flower, try and look, I tried to get this. I tried to get, when we first started our channels, we tried to get people. We tried to get like people in little communities to try and like grow stuff and share stuff between themselves, because like, food is a massive outlay for everyone, guys, and you can literally put seeds in the ground, and if you know what you're doing, I don't, so I'm definitely not the best person to ask, but if you know what you're doing, you can recycle those seeds and you can just keep, you know, you can just keep growing food, and you every tomato you grow, that's money in your pocket. Lord of Langwith on YouTube is saying China and Russia are running into, I've not missed that comment. I've missed that comment. The social capitalist is saying, are you saying the UK is going to be taken over by the US? Yes, I am 100% saying that. Why is this? What's in it for the US? Good question. Well presented. Deserves an answer, good sir. So you've got to understand how the world's going to be in like 10, 20 years. Let's just go with it, guys. We're talking about apocalyptic scenes, right? We're talking about apocalyptic scenes. So I've given you guys, if you want to go watch my video I did like a couple of days ago on how the Ukraine, I believe the Ukraine NATO minus the United States, how they are going to fare up against the Russians. And you know, I think I was quite fair in that video. And I see that right now, guys, I see that as a Russian W, all right, a win for Russia. So in that context, the Russians would make it all the way. Let me pin this again. The Russians would push all the way through Europe, and they would be through France. They would be on the, you know, they would be on the at the English Channel. And imagine the migrants coming over. Then you're going to get everybody, you know, but they won't be able to make it over the water. At that stage, the United Kingdom is going to be so badly overrun, so much in chaos. The United States are going to move over and take control. Now, the question is, what's in it for the United States? Antarctica. Antarctica is in it for the United States. I don't know if you know or not, social capitalist, but Britain owns Antarctica. Oh, Sean, Antarctica is split up by international countries and nobody's allowed to stake claim until the embargo is lifted in 2048. Yeah, all that is true. All that is true. Because Britain control the Falkland Islands, Britain control the peninsula, the Antarctic peninsula, and that's the only place you can. That's the only place you can land a ship realistically. Of course, you know, with vast amounts of resources, you could land other places, but why would you? So Britain, through its history, have been very good at controlling access and egress routes. Gibraltar, for example, you know, that's a perfect example. So oil, Antarctica, resources. If the United States takes control of the United Kingdom, the United States takes control of Antarctica. If the United States takes control of Antarctica, the United States are sat on the world's biggest oil reserve. That's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reality. So, you know, the incentive is there. The incentive is absolutely there. And listen, guys, I don't know what questions are going to come up. I really don't. I don't know what questions are going to come up. And I answer these questions in real time, guys. All right. So, excuse me. I answer these questions in real time, guys. Okay. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the live, ladies and gentlemen. It's 48 minutes and I've not asked anyone to share the live yet. Do all those things that help this channel grow, because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, it's just your fingers that help me out. It's just your fingers that help me out. Lorraine is saying, at least the US can control the borders. Our government can't or won't. It's more of an, let me pin this from Lorraine. I hope I got your comment there. Yes. So Lorraine is saying, at least the US can control their borders. Our government can't or won't. Easy to control our borders, guys. You just need to want to do it. Like 6 hours. If I was the prime minister, literally, guys, within 6 hours, I would have stopped it. 6 hours. And that's been, that's been quite conservative with my timings. Within 6 hours, you say to the Royal Navy, lads, go and stop the boats. They say, what? You say, yeah, go and stop the boats. Just tow them back. Done. The 6 hours is the Navy guys, getting on the boats, getting the boats into the English Channel. That's what takes 6 hours. The Afters is saying, what's the story, Ballamore? Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking today about an apocalyptic threat of the United Kingdom, whereby the United Kingdom could slip into an apocalyptic scape, whereby we have an absolutely indefensible scenes in the United Kingdom, massive unrest, fractured society, economic stagnation, distrust in government, riots, protests, dissident protests, splinter groups, literally, guys, like Northern Ireland in its height, but on vast amounts of creatine. Zed is saying, how do we, the UK, own or have control over Antarctica when we're so far from us? So, okay, so Zed is saying, how does the UK own or have control over Antarctica when it's so far from us? So, literally, go onto the website, British Antarctic Territory. I think it's www.bat.com or something. British Antarctic Territory. It's all about the Falklands. It's all about the Falklands, all right? So whoever controls the Falklands, so the Falklands in the South Atlantic, because of the proximity of the Falklands to Antarctica, that gives it the stake. That gives it that like staking claim of, of Antarctica. Now, of course, Britain doesn't claim the whole of Antarctica. But the little bit of Antarctica that Britain does claim, well, I say it's a little bit, it's 1/8 of Antarctica, it's huge. British Antarctic Territory, it has the only place, realistically, you can land ships. So if you think 2048, when this embargo gets lifted and people start going down there and drilling for oil, unless the aliens stop us, 2048, Britain will be the only place that people can land ships. So if you think about the masses of stores, steel, food, water, drilling equipment, you can't fly that in, guys. You cannot fly that in. You've got to ship it in. Remember, the water will take 30% of that load, and you can build ships a lot bigger than you can build aircraft. So all those ships going down to Antarctica, they will have to come through British Antarctic Territory. That will mean taxes. That will mean tariffs. That will mean setting up companies, paying UK tax, employing UK personnel, giving part of that oil back. You see where I'm going with that, guys? Britain owns Antarctica. Antarctica is British. Anyway, I hope that's answered the question. Linda is saying, "Wow, I never knew that." Linda? Are you talking about Antarctica? The PM doesn't want to stop them. He has been bought. He's just a puppet. Yeah, I agree. So, Linda, as well. Why don't you go for Prime Minister then? Evie Rick is saying, why don't you go for Prime Minister? Why would I want to be Prime Minister, Rick? Why would I want to be Prime Minister? It's a dirty game. Politics is a dirty game. Look, guys, for those of you who don't know, if you're joining for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, I did stand as a candidate for reform at the last election. I resigned once I knew how reform was structured, how it was working. I just resigned. I didn't want to be part of it. My morals My morals overtook my bank account. So I said, you know what? I don't actually want to stand with you guys anymore. I said, good luck. I've not really done a live stream or done a video or talked about why I did that. And I don't think it will be fair either, because, I think having a reformed government would be, I think a moth's just come in or something. Having a reformed government would be better than, I believe anyway, would be better than having a Labour government than a Conservative government. But still, it's the problems that we have are not with the government. The problems are with the structure that the government is works to. They're the real problems, guys. Joseph is saying, is Angelia minority native people? I don't know what that means, Joseph. So Joseph, I don't know what that means. Espro is saying, let's hope Lammy doesn't give Antarctica away, Sean. Yeah, so it's not Antarctica, it's the Falkland Islands that everybody needs to be concentrating on. Listen, guys, I can guarantee that the Argentinians are going to have another crack at the Falklands. You know how I always say all this information is readily available. You just need to know where to look. The Argentinians are buying amphibious landing craft. They are buying long-range strike capability. They're buying long-range missiles. They're buying F-16s, I think F-16s. Yeah, F-16s. So the Argentinians are buying the stuff that it would take to attack the Falklands. Now, let's just be clear. You don't need to send boots on the ground in the Falklands to take the Falklands. There's nothing there. There really isn't anything there. What you need to do is you need to beat the Falklands Islands into submission. And that's what I think the Argentinians are planning on, guys. I really do. And I think this will happen at some point sooner than people think. And it's just going to be one of those things that happens out of the blue. Nobody had been expecting it. Maybe it's going to be when Britain is, when Britain is committed in Ukraine, when Britain is weak, when Britain's undermanned, under-resourced, that would be when I see the strike for Antarctica. Remember, guys, okay, if the Argentinians control Antarctica, then that means that, if the Argentinians control the Falkland Islands, that means the Argentinians control Antarctica. The Argentinians, I would say, would be more cozying up to the Russians as well. Hang on. Right, there's a little chat going here on YouTube. And for those guys who are on YouTube, you know I can't talk about this while I'm on TikTok, so I'll get the live stream banned. It's about a man called John. Okay, I'm going to have to Google this name, but a comment is about a man called John Chukwunonso, Iwa, who is 54, who used his job as a psychiatric nurse to gain trust of his victims he met on a dating app before luring them and doing something with them. So I can't continue with that what we're saying on there, guys, while I'm on TikTok. So as soon as I switch over from TikTok over to YouTube, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, Espro, I really hope that David Lammy doesn't give the Falkland. I mean, can you imagine it? Who would be surprised, ladies and gentlemen? Right? Who would be surprised? Who would be surprised if David Lammy gave away the Falklands, gave away Antarctica, gave away the biggest oil reserves in the world, and then we had to pay them for it? Can you imagine? That wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if that came out, guys. We had to raise taxes because of that. Zed is saying, Raven, why are the army... Hang on. Yeah. Listen, guys, so Zed is saying, Raven, why are the army advertising recruitment like everywhere? Never seen anything like it. So one of the things I said, but last year, the back end of last year, I said, look, guys, by the time we get to June, mid-June, you're going to see an uptick in the military recruitment. Now, the reason I said mid-June is because April the 1st, when all these new taxes came into happened, you know, because Rachel Reeves had a 22 billion black hole and she had to plug those gaps, you know, so they're going to have to raise taxes, and those taxes are going to start on April the 1st. April the 1st, that's when companies would look at their books and say, right, we've got to let a load of people go. So they would get potentially like them April's money. So at the end of April, people get their money, all right? So they get, the money goes in at the end of April. So they can pay their direct debits on like the 1st of May. So people will go on all through May spending like normal, or maybe a little bit subdued. You know, by the time June comes, people will be struggling for money because they won't be able to pay their bills. They'll be flapping, they'll be in free fall, and people will really be struggling. That's when you start the military recruitment. That's when you want people in the military. No point doing it beforehand. You want people unemployed before you start the military recruitment. And Zed, you know, I think we all know the reason why the military recruiting, because they want more people. They need more soldiers. That is, you know, ultimately. Jay is saying, where is the summer of carnage? Jay, I agree. I expected, you know, look, let's just, I knew there was going to be mass protests this year. I knew there was going to be masses of people out on the streets protesting. I genuinely thought there would be more kinetic exchanges, which is kind of terrifying, because what I think is going to happen now, when the kids go back to school, when the mums and dads have to go back to work, that's when I think you're going to see the counter pushback. UK Veterans is saying job losses have started due to AI. Yeah, not just lots of things. You know, AI is taken over. It's taken over computer programming. It's taken over graphic design. It's taken over so much stuff. AI. Those people are out of jobs. You know, they really are out of jobs. I was talking to a guy. I don't know if he's watching. I don't know if Buster's watching. Maybe Buster's watching. I was talking to this guy, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I've seen the AI. I've seen the AI images. I can tell, and I don't like them. I just prefer hand drawn." So I've got what's it called? I've got like a software thing I used to do my thumbnails with. It's called Canva, and I said, right, okay, I've got an AI thing, and I said, draw me an image in this style. And I showed it Buster. I said, what do you think about that? And he was like, yeah, that's good. I can tell that's hand drawn. And it wasn't. It was AI. So he just proved himself wrong. So Afters is saying metas have yeah, guys, I'm going to jump over to YouTube in a second after I've got this comment from After. So the Afters is saying Meta have backtracked on AI massively, saying AI is not what we think it is at all. So I think the way people are going now is not artificial intelligence, but synthetic intelligence. So artificial intelligence imitates artificial intelligence that we know it imitates. Synthetic intelligence that thinks for itself. It can think what you're thinking, and it can preempt. It can do its own stuff. So yeah, so I do think but it's the same thing, guys. It's computers doing stuff. Right, ladies and gentlemen, the crux of this live stream, if you're watching on TikTok, was the United Kingdom heading towards a civil war, apocalyptic scenes on the streets. What do we think? Do we think it's real? Do we think it's fantasy? How far can people get pushed before they break? Remember, in the United Kingdom, we have no way legally of resisting the government. So unfortunately, guys, you know, we don't have any way of resisting the government. Yes, guys, the hapless shepherd is saying, is there a big protest in Liverpool? Yes, massive protests all around the country, guys. Okay, this weekend is going to be wild for protests. Right, the afters is saying, did you hear the event that Peter Thiel is hosting? I can't talk about Peter Thiel, guys, without I can't. I'm gonna have to do a live stream about Peter Thiel himself. You guys need to look into his background, where he's from, who he works for, where his money came from, and where his money's going. Pole shift incoming is saying, pole shift, look it up. Pole shift incoming. I know all about the incoming pole shift. I know, yeah, I agree. There is a pole shift coming. Now, the real question with the pole, I think there was a book. There was a book that was banned by the CIA in the 60s. The book was called Adam, the True Story of Adam and Eve or something. And that actually talks about the end of the world and how the polar ice caps will shift. There was a Russian experiment done in space, like, I don't know, in the 80s or something. And they kept that secret because he was showing you how the poles shift just off their own. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, right, I'm going to close this down on TikTok and I will be over on YouTube. We're going to have a look on YouTube about the protests, what's happening in Liverpool, what's happening in Norwich, and then we will indeed close that down again as well. But I don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because I will be back on tomorrow at 10. And hopefully there's been no craziness. There's been nobody petrol bombed. There's been nobody run over. There's been no craziness happening. Anyway, guys, I'm closing you lot down on TikTok, but I will be open on YouTube. No, not that one. And we're off. We are off. Hello, everyone, on you guys on TikTok. Not TikTok, YouTube. Right, guys. Listen, guys. I'm going to jump straight to these protests in Liverpool. Let me get the protests in Liverpool. Let me go straight to the protests in Liverpool. When I was looking at the protests earlier, I was looking at the crowd, and I did see that the capacity of the crowd in Liverpool, it did seem like the latest Liverpool protests. Yeah, massive scenes in Liverpool, guys. Massive protests in Liverpool. Let me try and get some, see if anyone's live streaming. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I almost made you listen to an ad there, didn't I?
Shall we? Protests outside hotels housing migrants are taking place across the country again this weekend. Counter-protesters are also gathering outside such hotels, including demonstrations from the infamous group Stand Up to Racism. The latest round of protests come as the Home Office will seek to appeal against the High Court's refusal to allow it to intervene in the case of an asylum hotel in Epping. Well, joining me now on the heart of the protest in Liverpool is GB News reporter Doogie BT. Doogie, tell us the latest.
We're not moving backwards here. The police have got themselves in a real muddle because they allowed stop racism.
Yeah, it does look wild. For Liverpool, looks wild at the moment, guys. I don't know where these things are going to go to. I mean, I'm genuinely worried. I'm genuinely worried because I don't feel we've seen any pushback, and I think people are. I think people are saving that pushback until people have gone back to school. I really do, guys. I'm just having a look down YouTube now, guys. I've got one here. Let's have a look at this. Right, that's a bit terrible footage. What am I seeing? What am I looking at here? Right, let me get some questions, guys. Let me get some questions. Aidan Reeves is saying they have ram bars, they have ram bollards in Blackpool seafront. Yeah, we call these diversity barriers. Like, I like to call these diversity barriers because nothing says you're a diverse country than these, you know, the massive flower pots. The massive flower pots, and you think, wow, that's a big flower pot with really thick concrete, and you've got like a little wilting, you've got like a little wilting, I don't know, I don't even know many flowers, like daffodil in the top, and you're like, oh, I mean, what's that for? Like all these big, like, you know, these big flower pots and the barriers, it's all to stop people ramming people with cars. I mean, I don't know, guys. When did this become a thing? Like, when did this become a thing? Like, when did we all of a sudden decide to start ramming people in cars? Sandra Green is saying they send our guys to wars, then the carnage. Who's going to look after the women and children? Well, do you know what, Sandra Green? I think a great idea would be, you know, these migrants in hotels, why don't we just make them security and they can protect us all? Wouldn't that be a good idea? I don't know. Tell me what you think about that. Maybe that's a good idea. John is saying, I noticed you have avoided the subject about patriots raising their flags. No, I haven't. No, I haven't avoided that. I've just not seen it. I've just not seen anyone mention it. So, yeah. I think it was in Stevenage? We was actually talking about that this morning on the live stream. So there was two incidents. One in London where an Indian restaurant got firebombed, and another incident. I've not seen the firebomb. I've seen fire on the floor. I've not seen anyone throw anything. I'm not casting doubt or anything. I've seen a guy with all blood on his face, and there was guys putting up flags, and they got attacked. That's what they're claiming. They got attacked. I have no reason to doubt them. They're saying they got attacked. Somebody threw a petrol bomb. And like, is that it now? I mean, if they were putting it, like, when did anyone get attacked for putting Palestinian flags up? I don't know, guys. Like, let's just contextualize this, all right? If you put a Palestinian flag up in Saudi Arabia, you're getting arrested. Like, you are getting arrested. That's the reality, guys, all right? And, you know, but it seems like we're allowed to put Palestinian flags up in the UK, but we're not allowed to put, you know, but we're not allowed to put our own country's flag up. Debbie Dennis is saying Liverpool had about 5 arrests earlier where people, I've been bit on my face, where people allowed pro-Palestine protesters near the anti-migrant protests think they were the plastic arrested. Fourpaws is saying Haven is owned by Britannia Hotels, apparently. So that would make sense then if this, well, obviously I don't know, but that would make sense then about people talking about this rumor that Haven is opening up their doors to what beautiful little thing if all the refugees could come over and have like a little holiday in a little holiday park. Jackie Holmes is saying people have painted the potholes here where we live, hoping that they get filled in quickly. Yeah, that might be a case. So you paint the potholes with a Union flag or Cross of St. George, and then the council come out and fill them in. It's like win-win. You know, it's win-win. Sandra Green is saying in the official capacity, because they are being given positions in security, police, etc., think about getting ready for Sharia, bud, believe me. I think they've already passed Sharia law in Austria. Let me just Google this. I think it's already happened in Austria. Yeah, Sharia law made legally binding in Austria. Remember, guys, okay, direct translation, Sharia means Islamic law. So when people say Sharia law, it's kind of like saying Islamic law. I mean, it doesn't matter, everybody uses it, but just if you want to like pick somebody up at a party or something, when they say Sharia law is brilliant, you can say to them, well, actually, Sharia, directly translated, means Islamic law. So saying Islamic law, you just make yourself, you guys know where I'm going. Sharia law made legally binding in Austria, despite warning over incompatible values. So the Austrians have gone for it. There, it seems like, people in Austria have gone all in on Sharia law. It must be superior. So Islam's Sharia law is legally binding for civil disputes in Austria. A court in the country's capital has confirmed. Two Muslim men had used a Sharia arbitration tribunal to settle a case of one of them owing the other 320,000 euros. The loser in this case had then appealed to the Vienna Regional Court for civil law matters, arguing that the rulings made under Sharia had no standing in Austria. So hang on a minute, there's more to this, guys, all right? So this is like two Muslims, all right? Two Muslims are making an agreement under Sharia law, right? One doesn't pay the other one back, and then the other one's like, well, hang on a minute, I don't want Sharia anymore. Sharia law is not legal in this country. And then the courts have gone, well, actually, you two Muslims want to play Muslim games. Your money's gone, mate. I think that's what's happening. That's what I think's happening. I don't know. That's just what I'm reading there. But yeah, people are going to push for this. People are going to push for this. And when they get it, and when you start seeing old ladies being stoned and everybody's saying, oh yeah, this is diverse. Yeah, where's your nana? Oh, she got stoned the other day. Where's she? No, that's her now. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, Sharia, innit? All right, all right, fair enough. What was she doing? Oh, she had a glass of wine out in the street. All right. Yeah, fair one. Debbie Dennis is saying we saw flags on lampposts in our very sleepy town outside Southampton. I mean, this is starting to if anybody's ever if there's any service people or service persons that have been on any service, anybody who went to Northern Ireland, who served in Northern Ireland, I guess they were the words I was looking for. The first thing that jumps out at you when you're in Northern Ireland is the flags. They let you know what area you're in, and they let you know whether you're welcome or not. And this putting up of the flags, it's kind of like the first steps to that. Look, guys, and I'm all for putting up the Union flag, but this is where I think it's going to go. This is where I think it's going to go. So, you're going to have, the Union flag up on the streets. And then across the road, you're going to have the Palestinian flag. And then they're going to have, a little enclave. And then there's going to be a little Somalian enclave with the Somalian flag. And then there's going to be a little, I don't know, maybe... You see where I'm going, guys? We're starting to segregate. We're starting to, we're starting to put ourselves into these segregated blocks, because the guys are not going to, the guys from the Palestinian side, they're not going to come over into these St. George's Crosses, and the St. George's Cross guys are not going to go over into the Palestinian sides. So you see where this develops into, guys. It's one of those things. It's like watching a horror film. It's like watching a horror film in slow motion, guys. And I don't know who. I tell you who it is. I'll tell you who it is now. It's liberal white women. Liberal white women, guys. Honestly, I think from everyone who I've ever met, I'm talking about Karens now. I'm talking about Karens. It's the Karens Like, you know, when you see these protests and you see these pro-Palestine marchers with the flags, and you're like, what are you actually like? Have you ever been to the Middle East? Have you ever seen a stoning? Like, what are you waving that flag for? And, you know, it's like I think, like, you know, if I was to say what is the main instigator in the UK, I would say liberal white women. I would. Liberal white women. They are like absolute, like, enablers of these people. Because if it wasn't for the liberal white women, you know, the liberal men would get told what to do by the conservative men, by the stronger men, rather than being push whipped. And then they'd have to do what the men told them. And then the conservative men wouldn't allow, like we were talking about Sharia law coming to the United Kingdom. They're like, no, we're not having that, mate. But it's these liberal women who make their liberal men. They've probably got dog collars for their men, and they make them walk on all fours and say, I'm a social goddess. You've got to lick my feet or something. I don't know. Let me get some comments, guys. Let me get some comments. Jackie Holmes is saying, when will it end? It's my question. Look, Jackie, I don't think it's going to end for a while. It will start to end when we can stop mass migration coming to the United Kingdom, but that's only going to be the beginning of the end, I guess. Silly Galadi is saying Sharia is also the legal system for Muslims in Israel for marriage and divorce. How does that work? Like, are Muslims allowed to get divorced? I don't know. Please educate me, guys. Educate me. I don't know. I didn't think Muslims were allowed to get divorced. Yes, Freddie. Right. I need to look up this John Chukua. Right. So let me look at this article now. John. In fact, you know what? We'll do it together. We'll do it together. What's his name again? John Chuk-Wun. I'm going to share this with you guys. Give me a second. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. I will share this with you. So I'm going to miss out these words, guys, because even though we're on YouTube, I still feel they're distasteful to say, but you guys can read it there. Nurse allowed to work with vulnerable hospital patients for a year. No, block that. For a year, despite police warning he was a suspect. Two hospital trusts have now launched their own investigations into John. I'm just going to call him Chucker. John Chucker. All right. Into John Chucker. The Independent told them of his convictions. So there he is. Look, old John. The nurse was able to work freely for more than a year while under investigation because of the UK's scandal-hit nursing regulator failed to suspend him when police made officials aware of the allegations against him. John Chucker, 54, of Croydon, used his job as a psychiatric nurse to gain the trust of his victims, whom he had met on a dating app. Before, I don't know what the... Okay, we'll go with it. After she rejected his advances in 2022, he was jailed on 11th of July this year for 16 years after being found guilty of those things. The Metropolitan Police have now urged other potential victims to come forward after officers found almost 11,000 contacts on his phone. 11,000! Which 60% of them were saved in the format of a woman's name and the date and the name of a dating app. 11,000. Who knows? Like, who's got 11,000 contacts on their phone? That's just creepy, guys. That's creepy. 11,000 names on your phone, guys. That is phenomenal. So I think what we're getting here, guys, I think what we're getting here is, people, and I don't know where he's come from. I don't know where he was born. But I think this comes back to, one of the points that I've said previously. We're going to have these influx of people coming over to the United Kingdom. We don't know where they're from. We don't know what they've done in their other life. We don't know what they've done in the country they came from. They're coming over to the United Kingdom. They're being granted asylum. They're then getting jobs in security, jobs in authority. And then we're going to have a situation, guys, at some point where there's going to be two guys in a security van. They're going to pull up. There's going to be like two girls walking home from school or something. And they're going to say, listen, there's been a security problem. Get in the van. Those girls are never going to be seen again, guys. And that terrifies me. We've got girls, and that terrifies me. So apparently, listen, guys, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just getting this here. Muslims can get divorced. The only thing is for a man to say 3 times to his wife that she is expelled. So is that how you go with it? He's like, you're expelled, you're expelled, you're expelled. You have to say it 3 times. Does he have to pat his head as well while he's doing it? You're expelled, you're expelled, you're expelled. And that's it. She's on the street. I mean, like, can you imagine if they bring Sharia law into the UK? And look, I'm not counting it out. And then, like, you're going to get these liberal women who are going to be all for it. And then they're going to realize what it actually is. And look, it is what it is, guys. I do believe it's coming. Lord of Langwith is saying Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire flags everywhere, roundabouts, all done in St. George's Cross. Is this the start, ladies and gentlemen? Is this the start of segregation in the UK? Because it's only going to be a matter of time before you get, I don't know, Afghan flags going up, Iraqi flags going up, no doubt Palestinian flags going up, and then all these little areas and enclaves, you're not going to be able to go there. It's a wild time, guys. It's a wild time. Sharon Owen is saying, do they hold a wand as well, like in Harry Potter? Do they hold it? What, when they're putting the flags up? Well, what do we mean there? Oh, no, what Sharon means is... So what Sharon means is, like, if a Muslim man wants to divorce his wife, apparently, and I don't know if this is the case, guys, all right, if anybody's got any counter to this and they want to educate me, please, I'm happy to be educated. But apparently all a Muslim man has to do is say, you're expelled 3 times. And Sharon Owen is saying, do they have to hold a magic wand like in Harry Potter? So like, Expelliardo, Expelliardo, Expelliardo. And then that's it. She's been, she's divorced then. That's her. She's gone. She's gone. She's on the curb. Tracy Kemp is saying, it was on Radio Worcester at 6 a.m. news months ago that the hotel people will be given government jobs. I heard it with my own ears. They never said it again, though, throughout the day. Yeah, I think that would maybe one of those things that people are like trying to keep quiet. But yeah, guys, look, government jobs, government work. Why can't we give the homeless government jobs, guys? Why can't we give the homeless people government jobs? Why can't we give the unemployed government jobs? Why can't we do that? Jacqueline Butterworth is saying, who are the street soldiers? Does anyone know? I've no idea. Is it that Shield? Is it those guys? Listen, where have those guys gone? Can you guys remember when I gave you guys warnings about those guys, And I just said, listen, guys, hang on. Freddie is saying, Serbia has pro-government protesters, anti-government and anti-police. Right, let's have a look. what's happening in Serbia. I'm not sure if I have the capacity to do Serbia as well. I can remember when I used to look through, when I used to work in Eastern Europe and I used to employ Eastern Europeans, I used to get a lot of Eastern European CVs come across my desk, well, to my email. A lot of the CVs at the bottom of these CVs said, I would also like to add that no military unit I served in ever got investigated for war crimes. I was like, oh, well, you know what? That's always a good thing. That's always a good thing when you're looking at CVs. Right, 59 minutes ago. How will the, right, so there's crackdowns, right. Security forces are brutalizing demonstrators in Serbia, with criminal gangs also said to be involved. Could escalating violence put the country's EU candidacy at risk? Tensions in Serbia are high each day, with new reports of police violence and arrests against demonstrators, along with accusations that the Western Balkans country's government is hiring criminal gangs to attack its own population. Anti-corruption protests have been going on since 16 people were killed when a railway station canopy collapsed in the northern city of Novi Sad in November 2024. The demonstrations began peacefully, but in recent days, violence has escalated in the capital, Belgrade, and beyond. The country's right-wing populist president appears to be taking a harder line in response to the civil outcry. So Shield, okay, so they're still doing well, these guys called the Shield then. Look, guys, if they're doing well, these guys, the Shield, and if they're doing good, I say more power to them. I'm just very suspicious about what can actually be achieved by a couple of guys with tattoos on their faces and motorbikes. There needs to be, and like you guys know, I've said this before, there needs to be that movement. There needs to be that ideological sync. The ideological sync. Now, I said it may come as it may be a song, it may be a movie. Whatever, it needs to be something that unites people, and I think we are seeing it with this raising of the flags. Jacqueline, I have no idea who the street soldiers are. Jacqueline, is not everybody street soldiers? I don't know. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. Tracy Kemp is saying it's correct about divorce. So we were correct about divorce. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. I'll be back on, I hope, at 10 in the morning. I'm going to go and watch Lord of the Rings now. We've got like 20 minutes left of the Fellowship, and then we're going straight into the Two Towers. Favorite bit on the movie when Gandalf's flying down that hole and he's fighting with the Balrog. Fantastic bit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys in the morning.